that today we all gather in the Kennedy Caucus room to recommit ourselves to making sure that this great country we call our home lives up to the principles and the values which make us so proud to be called American citizens. Today, we're going to be talking about an issue that may seem foreign because it involves a situation in another part of the world. But as my uncles believed, the principle that we stand for in our own country is not a principle that we can abandon in U.S. foreign policy in other places in the world. For us to be consistent, we need to be consistent not only here, but around the world. In the words of Dr. Martin Luther King, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And for the United States, we can't be party to injustice and abuse of human rights in one part of the world and then say that we're for human rights in a different part of the world. It's inconsistent. What we're here today to talk about is how U.S. foreign policy needs to be made more consistent. We say we're for liberty. We say we're for human rights. Then where is the evidence of this? In places of the world like the Middle East, which is unraveling as we speak. Where is the United States going to be on the crucial issues of freedom and democracy in a place of the world that's been long denied freedom and democracy? The moment is now. The clock is ticking. And people are waiting to find out whether the United States is going to live up to its reputation as being on the side of human rights, human dignity, and human liberty. In previous generations, we stood on the side of human justice and human liberty. Today, that reputation is at stake and is being challenged. The Middle East is the new battleground for whether this United States is going to uphold its commitment to human rights and freedom and democracy. Today, that fight is over the fascist dictatorships of theocracy and military dictatorships that have oppressed the people of the Middle East for too long. And nowhere is that more apparent over a longer period of time than in Iran, where the Arab Spring first began. Today we're seeing it unfold in Syria. We've seen it unfold in Egypt and Libya and other countries. But the test for the whole Middle East is whether it will ultimately come to pass in the country that is responsible for the largest state-sponsored export of terrorism of any country in the world, and that is the country of Iran, led by the mullahs in Tehran, who continue to try to thwart the freedom of expression and human rights of the people in the Middle East, not only in Iran, but in every other country in the Middle East and around the world, where the hand of terrorism can be linked back to the mullahs in Tehran. So the remaining friend of Bashar Assad is Khomeini. The remaining country that stands while Assad massacres his people in Syria is the regime of Iran. But Assad's days are numbered. And why? They're numbered because the people of Syria have stood up to impossible expectations that they could truly take back their country. It's happened in all the other countries as well, barring the one where it needs to happen the most urgently, and that's in Iran. Iran must be worried because they know they're increasingly being isolated. And when Assad goes, there's no more plausible excuse for them not to go next and have a new Iran led by a democratic group of people, led by the most powerful democratic opponents of the current regime in Tehran, and that's the MEK and the PMOI. Today, you're going to hear from a number of speakers about this fight. But understand that this fight today for a new Iran is being fought by a group of dissidents on the front line of this fight to free their homeland. These dissidents are now trapped between a world of Ashraf and a hellhole of Camp Liberty. But understand this, their fight is the fight for a new Iran. And that is why their fight for the most basic human rights in Iraq, for freedom and respect in Camp Liberty and Camp Ashraf, is really a proxy for their fight to free their homeland in Iran. And the mullahs in Tehran know this. And that is why they have gotten the Iraqi officials to do for them what Iran has not been able to do in the last 26 years of trying to kill everybody in Camp Ashraf and Camp Liberty. Now Iran is counting on Iraq, the United States, and the United Nations to do what Iran has not been able to do, and we today are going to make a very clear statement, and that is the United States will not stand by and be complicit in war crimes, be complicit in standing on the side of a brutal dictatorship and their agenda, and watch as the loyal opposition to Tehran gets massacred and gets denied human rights in the effort of Iran to continue to intimidate and harass the people of Camp Ashraf and Camp Liberty. So this is not just a question of geopolitical power, although you hear about policy up here. This is a question about whether the United States is going to fulfill its obligation to the people that it made a promise to, and fulfill its obligation to live up to the values that it stands for. And the United States cannot fulfill that obligation while it's denying the opportunity for the people of Camp Liberty and Camp Ashraf to live safe, to have their lives protected, and to be afforded some of the most basic human necessities that anybody, anywhere in the world, would associate with respect for human life and human rights. When the United States stands on the sidelines and lets the mullahs in Tehran have their way, the United States is giving the green light for the denial of human rights in Camp Liberty and Camp Ashraf. And we today are going to discuss the lack of water, the lack of understanding, the lies that have come out from Martin Kobler and Ambassador Freed as they continue to do the bidding of Tehran instead of doing their job, which is to stand on the side of these asylum seekers who have been promised protection by the United States and the international community. That is our subject that we're going to talk about today. It may also be about the specter of nuclear weapons in Iran, but make no mistake about it. We're never going to see a resolution to the crisis in Iran with nuclear weapons if we do not first decide as a country whose side we're going to stand on. Are we going to be complicit on the side of the mullahs in Tehran and continue a policy of appeasement? Or are we going to stand with the most organized democratic opposition to the mullahs in Tehran and say that we reject the way they're treating their people and that we are going to stand in this country for a new Iran led by a democratic movement supported by the MEK and the PMOI? What do you think the answer should be? Today you're going to hear that answer from leading U.S. military and political officials as to where our United States policy should be. After Secretary of State Clinton's agreement where she put the reputation of the United States of America on paper as being committed, let me read you the words. We commend the Secretary of State Clinton, the government of Iraq, for its work with the United Nations Special Representative Ambassador Martin Kobler, and welcome this important step towards humane resolution of the ongoing situation in Camp Ashraf. Secretary of State goes on. In signing this memorandum of understanding, this represents significant progress on the issue and outlines the necessary steps to achieve a peaceful, viable solution for the residents of Ashraf, including their, quote, temporary relocation to Camp Liberty. We are encouraged. This is the United States' reputation on the line now. This is the country that fought a war to put this current government in Iraq in place, saying that we are encouraged by the way that the Iraqi government has treated the residents of Camp Liberty. Does this look like it upholds the reputation of this United States of America? Does this look like the kind of agreement that is truly honors the values of our country? I don't think so.